I was told your title is Bigger Boys and Girls. The younger ones have gone. So we continue our discussion on marriage. Last week, we spent time asking the question, what's the biblical basis for marriage? Today, we want to ask the question, what is a Christian marriage? My prayer and hope is that you will be evaluating your own marriage as to whether it's Christian or not. If you are single, you will be starting to form an opinion as to whether you want a Christian marriage or not. But let me be clear. One of the ways of knowing you are a Christian is when you decide not to control your life, but to allow the Lord to control you. That's what we call it being born again. You are born and you feel you are in charge of your life. Being born again is deciding from now onwards, I surrender the control of my life to God and I want Him to take care of me. Still, last month, I preached in the church where I was born again in the village. I come from Kinangop. In fact, my wife is preaching in a school there just now. She went to speak in high school there. And as I sat there, I remembered just around getting 60 years ago, standing up like a boy, like one of those, and giving my life to the Lord. And I still remember what I said about 60 years ago. I'm married 70s. I still remember what I said, that I would like to surrender my life to Christ to lead me until He comes for me. Those who are 1960s and have seen what advantage it is to hand over the running of your life to God. There are benefits in the process. These days in our 70s, I keep talking to my friends, and some of them have gotten saved later. The other day, one of them told me, Nganga, are you aware how lucky you are that you got married early? I said, exactly what do you have in mind? And he explained to me, one of the toughest time is for a non-Christian to get married. And some of you are here, so you know it better than me. So I said, just explain. You just met Rebecca and married. I said, yes. And you? I couldn't quite understand. He explained, when you're a non-Christian, you can't trust a girl. You think you are the only boyfriend, she has several others. So in order to be wise, you also have several. So now the game of young people is hiding from one. And he said, like me, and I've known him for the last 40-something years. I've known him for around 45 or so years. So he's my age mate. And he told me, I had 2 girlfriends. And I did not, the big job was to ensure none knows about the other. I started understanding the difference between being a Christian and a non-Christian. Is because so he says the tough part is when you are planning to meet this one, you must make sure you know where the other one. And 1970s there were no phones. It's landline. So he explained how tough it was. In fact, he got saved. He got saved in the 60s, and because I had been preaching to him for around 40 years, the day he got saved in his church, he's from Presbyterian Church. When the day he got saved, he rang me that afternoon. He said, "I want you to be the first one to hear I've given my life to the Lord." And I was very excited. So I said, "Let's have a cup of tea." Now he is explaining what it means to be saved older. So he went on. One day, and I'll now not tell you where exactly they were living in case I'm talking about your uncle, but because a true story. One day, one of the girlfriends came to his house and they were sharing the house. There are several bedrooms. They were sharing the house with other young men, but of course the girl knows which particular one. So she went straight to the room and she expected a normal visit. But when the evening came, the girl refused to go. I suspect he had guessed there's another girl. So she refused to go. Said, are you not going? No, I'm not going. And she knew the other one was also going to come on another day. He told me what you go through trying to see how do you tell the girl in a nice way to leave. Because there's another one about to come. Anyway, what happened is finally the other girl came. Straight to the room as usual, only to discover there's another woman. He says that girl left unhappy and they have never seen each other up to today. The only thing he had, the reason why the first girl was coming and refusing the house is because she had discovered she was pregnant. And so she knew there's no that's hakuna mchezo. So that's why she stayed. The reason why the other one was coming, she was also pregnant. So he says, I have 2 children, same time, one I brought up, the other one I have no idea how she looks like. Must be somewhere along, about 50 years old girl somewhere. Maybe it's you. But it's very... Because they say they have never met again. That's what it means to have an unchristian marriage. Are you getting the point? And so it's not a small matter. Why? Because for me as a Christian, we met with Rebecca in the university. She had just come from Makerere. Just about the time I was finishing, the Jomo Kenyatta ordered all Makerere, all Kenyans in Makerere to come back to Kenya because of Idi Amin. So she just came just before I left, and I met her. Anyway, I don't have enough time today to give you the story. But the point is, we met before I left. And we seem to like each other. Now, the rest of the story I'll tell you later. But the point is, the Lord led us together. And you have now been married for more than 45 years. When you surrender your life to the Lord, He picks somebody you can marry and guides you to her. And then, since every marriage you have trouble, He manages the trouble for you. Am I communicating? I've written up, like I told you, I've written a book for young people giving part of that story called Finding a Life Partner. My distributor, Scripture Union, is on site today, so you can actually pick the book. But the question you're answering today, what is a Christian marriage? The first thing I get from the book of Genesis chapter 2, and we read it last week. For this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. What's the Bible telling us? For you to have a Christian marriage, you must be a man, not a boy. We talked about it last week, isn't it? That Christian marriages are not between children. The idea of saying, if I get a girl, your son will marry if you get a boy. No, you don't do that. You must allow them to become adults. It's a man and a wife, not a girl and a boy. It is not those traditional marriages where children are betrothed to each other. It's not a biblical process. Number 2, and if you want to get the information, I think you'll be able to get it from the recording of the first service. But I want you to understand that in the process, once you are an adult and you are ready to marry, you must consult God for the Lord to lead you into marriage. So the second thing I'm saying about marriage is that it must be voluntary. Nobody forces you. Hey, you are 40 and not married. I agree, my father, you are concerned. But marriage is none of your business. A boy has to decide to get married. And when he doesn't marry, it does not reflect on the parents. He is old enough to make mistakes. Are we together? You cannot hold parents responsible for the behavior of an adult. Am I communicating? So Christian marriage requires you are an adult, and then requires you become voluntary. I don't want to repeat what I said in the first service. But thirdly, I say we saw the third mark of a Christian marriage is that it is begun by God. And I read Malachi 2:15. It says, but did He make them one? In other words, God is saying, I'm the one who makes them one. And several things follow from there. And again, if you want a New Testament, I read for in the first service, Mark chapter 10, verse 9. Therefore, what God has joined together, let no man put asunder. Clearly giving the same emphasis that marriage, if it's a godly marriage, if it's a Christian marriage, must be begun by God. He has not delegated to anybody. Just read the verse again, Mark chapter 10. What God has joined together is not what the pastor has joined together. The pastor can look at that guy, oh, that boy, come together, you look good. No. It has to be God talking to that girl and talking to that boy, and God bringing them together. Am I communicating? It doesn't say what the pastor has joined together. It says what God has joined. Number two, it doesn't say what the clan has joined together. It may be true you have paid your cows, all of them. There's no balance remaining. But you still cannot sleep with that girl unless, of course, you want to go to hell. Until God has joined you together. You don't have a Christian marriage because you have paid dowry. That's traditionally okay. But we are not discussing traditional marriage. We are discussing a Christian marriage. In a Christian marriage, the requirement is that God has joined you together. And it doesn't even talk about the registrar general. No, some of you just walk to a registrar and you are married. No, you have a civil marriage, not a Christian marriage. A Christian marriage, God must bring you. But how does God do it? I pick in James chapter 5, verse 14, that when there is a big issue that requires God, James 5:14 says, let them call the elders. I'm told the word pastor and the word elder is the same in Greek. In other words, basically he's saying, the one who represents God is saying, the one who represents me. When I say God are joined together, it means on behalf of God, a pastor has joined them together. Let them call the elders and the church and they pray over them. Whatever the issue. In this case, we are talking about marriage. So, my friend, if you are seated here and no pastor has ever prayed of your marriage, you have a problem calling it a Christian marriage. Because a Christian marriage is where God has joined them together. And you need to ask yourself, why don't you want to do it? I know a lot of it is because they ask for a lot of money to do a wedding, isn't it? That's not here. It doesn't say those who have had a big wedding. It just says those who have been joined together are the one the Lord is promising that He will not separate. Those God are joined together. And so you need to understand, we must fight this new tradition of very expensive wedding. Of course, if you have the money, we can eat it. We will be able to eat it. But it's not part of your marriage does not benefit at all by the cost of the wedding. That's why I want to encourage a lot of churches to stop weddings on Saturdays. Let them be during the Sunday service. Like just now. You just stop for half an hour, finish it, and continue with the service. As long as the man of God is there, and you say your vows, and the word of God, pray over them, God has joined you. Tea after that? No, not necessary. You don't need any tea. Because tea is not mentioned. Of course, you have the money, we will take it. But it needs to be understood and it must be taught clearly. These big weddings are okay if you are rich, but they are not a requirement. They are extra requirements. So we need to understand clearly that it will be important that if you truly want a Christian wedding, which is our topic today, you must go before a man of God for God. You know, Jesus, just to show how important wedding is, his first miracle was done in a wedding. So how can you tell me you're a Christian and you have no value for weddings? And you're not talking about a wedding, the registrar in the clan. We are talking about where God brings you together. Of course, if you're non-Christian, it's okay. Don't come to church. We are not forcing you. But if you want a Christian wedding where God is saying when He joins them, they do not separate. He says, The word is saying, what God has joined together, no man can separate. Then you need to come to where that's done. But the big question is, what about like my friend, the one I've just talked about, who wedded in Kikuyu, they say, you know, you just pick the girl through when the garden has a long maze and you disappear. And from then onwards, you said your father to report, your lost sheep is in my house. That's what the normal thing in the 60s, when you're young people, 60s, 70s. You say, we actually, you steal her, then you tell your father to go and report the lost sheep is with his son. Now that's what you're saying. Anyway, if that's what happened, the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 7 deals with the matter. And it says in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 20, each person, you're talking to save people, each person should remain in the situation they were in when they were called. So were you called already married? Stay married. I know you are not happy with your wife. And then you are saying, now that I'm saved, I'll throw her away to get a Christian one. You are not allowed. And please go and read chapter 7. It says, even if you get saved and your spouse has not gotten saved, you must still stay with her. In fact, the Bible says your marriage will be blessed because you yourself are saved. The blessings of God will come through the saved spouse. Am I communicating? It's still not a Christian marriage, but the blessings of God will flow through the Christian spouse. Am I communicating? So it means then, if you actually got wedded or married or whatever word you want to use through the maze garden, how you understand the maze garden? The importance of the maze is that it used to be long, so you can do it without the other people seeing as you pass through the garden. She throws her clothes through the window, and you are waiting on the other side. Then she disappears in the maze garden. You appear and disappear. Now, you are laughing, but that was normal when I grew up, 1960s, 70s. That was quite normal to begin a marriage. But here we are talking about people that's the way they married. The word of God is saying your marriage can still be blessed. But for it to become a Christian wedding, now that you're already married, you don't have to be wedded again. You come to the pastor to pray for the blessing of your marriage. Can you see the difference? If you are single, you are wedded. If you are not single, the marriage is prayed for blessing. And I want to ask you, how can you claim to be a Christian and you do not want God's blessings? You are the same one, you build a house and you have the pastor to come and dedicate it. But that's a stone. And your marriage, which is the more important, has not yet been prayed for. And you're praying for stones. There's something wrong with you, isn't it? So I want to tell you clearly, if you want to call yourself a Christian, you need to come on a Sunday, not a Saturday, and or even on a weekday, but a time when your marriage can be prayed for blessings. Are we together? And why is it important that happens? 3 things. Number 1, and let me begin with the most important. You certainly need blessings. Marriage is such a difficult affair that it needs to be understood that no marriage does not have challenges. And you need God's help, isn't it? Now, and by the way, it doesn't matter even if you have been married for 50 years, I've been married for more than 45, you still have challenges. So, even if you have not you have not prayed for blessing for 45 years, you know people are living to 100 and something. Have you heard of them? So there may still be other 30 years of remaining with this lion. So it's important. It's important to seek God's help. Even if you are in the 70s, pray for God's help to bless your marriage. That's the first thing you're asking for. God, come be involved in my marriage. Number 2, the reason why you need to bring that wedding, that marriage for blessing, number 2, is because the moment you do not do that, you have left yourself open to polygamy. It is now official in Kenya that if you did not marry through the church, it means your husband is free and open. And like the Muslims he can marry 20. Basically, the moment you don't bring your wedding, your marriage for blessings in a Christian marriage, It means you are telling your husband, not loudly, but quietly, you are open. Now, you have to be a very strange woman who allows your husband to continue without wedding you in church, and yet when he brings another one, you are refusing. Why didn't you wed if you wanted him to be the only one? And that's why you need to be very clear. When you come to a Christian to be prayed for Christianity, you are committing yourself to have only this one for life. Am I communicating? So the second reason why you need to do it is because although you got wedded that way, now you are making a commitment with God's help to be with this girl for life. And you are saying you don't want the temptation of not being sure whether you are married or not married. So the first thing is you want your marriage to be blessed. Second one is you want to avoid polygamy. Thirdly and importantly, the reason why you want to do it is so that your spouse understands you are committed. Am I communicating? Through the Maze Garden, you didn't even know about love. Like I was telling the first service, when we have just said marriage is voluntary. But if she got pregnant, you married her, upende. So there was no voluntary. You are not sure. You are saying, did I have a chance? Now, you need to understand now you have a chance. Come before the pastor and openly make a commitment to love and continue with your spouse. Am I communicating? So there needs, if you really want a Christian marriage, there's no way you can stay as you are and the person is not asking for money. It's simply asking you to make a commitment, and then he promises to pray to God to join you. Are we together? That's what a Christian marriage is all about. Next, we are still talking about a Christian marriage. That it's a covenant, not a contract. A civil marriage is a contract between two. In fact, now these days they even have prenuptial. Have you heard of them? So that you say, I'm marrying you subject to the following. If the following happens, I leave you. Now, that's a contract, isn't it? And a contract is a commitment between two people. Not that party involved. A covenant is very different. Just look at Malachi 2:14 again. And it's saying, yet she, your wife, is your companion. Another way of putting it, and your wife by covenant. A Christian marriage is a covenant, not a contract. Are we together? In business, partners enter into a contract. Let's be clear. A contract always has an escape clause. It cannot be a contract without an escape clause. A covenant has no escape clause. And now I'm starting to wonder, do I still want to go to the pastor? But that's what you are making a commitment when you come to Christ. It is a covenant between man, woman, and God. And a contract between two of you, a covenant, God is involved. That's why he is saying God has joined you together. That's what you mean by covenant. Husband and wife are bound to each other till death. There is no escape clause. You are supposed to be together for life. If you just signed a marriage contract on a piece of paper, then yours is not a Christian marriage. But it's still a marriage. It's a legal marriage. It is recognized by the Attorney General. It is not fulfilling the demands of heaven, but it is actually fulfilling the demands of our Constitution. The one heaven recognizes is not a contract. It has to be a covenant. That's why Christians in Kenya have a marriage certificate to make it the legal union for government. But in addition to that, they come to church to make it a marriage covenant. Again, I don't have enough time, but you can pick in one of my books on marriage outside, and it will give you some few details. But that's a very important thing to understand, the difference between a non-Christian civil marriage or clan marriage or Luya marriage or Kikuyu marriage and a Christian marriage. In a Luya marriage, you pay cows, isn't it? And if she becomes barren, according to the Luyas, the money is refundable. Am I communicating? You know the difference between a gift and dowry? You know, when you visit your parents-in-law and you give them a gift, that's a gift. Dowry has to be recorded. 3 things about dowry. It is demanded. It's not what you give. You don't give what you are willing. The owner, the seller, the mother, the parents of the girl actually determine how much they want. It's a seller. So if it's a dowry, it is as to be demanded by the seller, determined by the seller. Number two, it is recorded. There's like a book the old man keeps. And even after 20 years, it says, do you know you remained 5 cows? Now, it's a sales contract when you come to dowry. And number three, it is refundable. According to African culture, for example, if you're a Kikuyu, you know it. That if you buy a wife, by the way, the Kikuyu don't beat about the Kogorana. If you buy a wife, you are buying childbearing ability. When she comes to your home and is barren, the Kikuyus allow you to return her, and you get your dowry refunded. Because dowry is refundable. And that's what we are saying. In a covenant, that's not the issue. It's God's participation. That's why you cannot call yourself a Christian, having a Christian marriage, and you go to your wife through dowry. That's a cultural thing. In a Christian marriage, no dowry gets involved, but gifts are exchanged. Why? The Bible teaches us generosity. So you cannot come to visit my friend. Young people are listening to me and they are getting excited. But you cannot go to visit your girlfriend's home empty. You cannot call yourself a Christian. Because Christians are generous. Are we together? But the difference is you don't give dowry, you give gift. The other day, a friend of mine was a spokesman for another friend of ours when they were going for negotiations. When they went, they said, can you take us as Christians? They were too intertribal. Said, we will not follow your traditions, we will not follow ours, we are Christians. So we will not discuss any dowry because we don't see that in the New Testament. We see it in the Old Testament, but we don't see it in the New Testament. Has no place for dowry. Of course, if you're in Judaism, go and pay dowry. If you're a Christian, it has no biblical basis in the New Testament. Now, so the people say, no. You must pay dowry. Said, we beg you. We really plead with you. They pleaded. They said, can you go outside and negotiate? Said, even if we go outside, we'll come back to repeat the same thing. We have come with a gift and want you to accept the gift. So don't bother asking us. Okay, finally the owners of the home said, okay, we will go. So the owners are the ones who went outside. When they went outside, they said, these people can do us. They can't do us. They must. We don't want their gifts. We are the ones to demand as per our tribal custom. I don't want to tell you which tribe in case I'm talking about your uncle. So, and of course the uncles seem to enjoy. Theirs never married. Why should this one marry? So they say, let's go and throw them out. The father of the daughter is different. It's his own daughter, isn't it? He fired the spokesman. So when he said we are going back, and now he's the one who spoke. He said, I can see we are not seeing eye to eye. Can you repeat? Exactly. Now your father was not talking. Can you repeat what exactly you wanted? He said, we have come with a gift. There are two things. Our son says they feel God has led them to marry your daughter, but we want to do it in a proper way. So we are seeking for your permission. But in addition to that, we have come with a gift and want you to accept it as a gift. The Moses says, okay, bring it. And they had, of course, these days you don't come with cash, otherwise Mungeki will come. They had come with a banker's check. So he opened the envelope, and the banker's check was more than 500,000 shillings. The dowry they wanted was half of that. So the gift was double the size of dowry. He just stood up and said, Hiya, I did not know this the way you came. He rose up, went to my friend, and embraced him, and they sang to Kutendereza. And as we talk, the couple is married. So we are not suggesting the gift is mean. We are only saying, if you call it dowry, several things go wrong. Am I communicating? Give as much as you can, but don't call it for 3 reasons. Number 1, you don't want a wife purchased. Some of you have one on loan, where you paid a bet, and a bet is still balanced. That's not a Christian marriage. In a Christian marriage, you are not on loan. Am I communicating? It is 2 people in love. Number 2, please understand, dowry is religious. That's why you don't give just what you want. You go what the ancestors say. And when you don't give it, you don't just have a trouble with the living, you have trouble with the dead. Among the Kikuyus, there's something they are calling currently, it's very current, they are calling it Viriwakomi. Have you heard of it? The death of the ancestors. Most of those deaths have to do with dowry. That your grandmother died before her dowry was paid. The only thing I'm asking, who knows that? But so they must talk the spirits. And the reason why your son keeps failing exams is because the dead ancestors is requiring the dowry to be cleansed. So are you understanding that when you enter into the dowry system, you are connecting yourself with the spirit of the... How could you consider a Christian and agree to pay? I know you are saying, but what mine was already paid. Yeah, God says the days of ignorance God overlooked. So if you pay dowry, it's okay. But go back to the father of your wife, not you, but the wife. You have to go back and say, what we did was wrong. I have repented. From now onwards, we will be bringing you gifts, but they will never be recorded. Your parents, we value you, we will keep giving gifts, but it will not be, and it is not refundable. You will never ask you for, even if our marriage breaks, we will never ask for the money back. Am I communicating? Because dowry is a religious thing. It's something to do with ancestral worship. You do it, of course, people say, we are exchanging gifts, just try not to, and the spirit will be on your case. Because you actually, by paying dowry, you are subscribing to ancestral worship. Am I communicating? That's why, for example, you tell him, say, I'm giving you a gift, and the gift is double the dowry. But he insists you must give. Why? Because he is fearing the spirit of the... It might bring Chira. Ever heard of Chira? So it's important to understand when you're a Christian, you don't deal with the spirits of the dead. Read the book of Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 10 to 12, which says, the living have no relationship with the dead. So it means, and that means anyway, I've run out of time, but I hope you can see how important this subject is, isn't it? That in a Christian marriage, you exchange gifts, but you do not get involved in dowry. Because what you have is not a contract, it is a covenant. And it's important that that is something you get right into the back of your mind and debate on your own how far you can go with that. I'm going on. A Christian marriage is a monogamous, lifelong union of flesh and spirit. Let me repeat. A Christian marriage is a monogamous. What does monogamous mean? You can't have two. It doesn't say, you know, and I told you last week, that there were enough ribs on both sides. You know, there are equal ribs this side and this side, isn't it? Only one rib was removed. So if God knew that Adam required more than one wife, he would have made one from this side and the other one from the other side. The reason why he made only one, because one woman is almost too much for a man. Am I communicating? So you can't start talking about polygamy. Polygamy is a no-go. Then you tell me, but Old Testament people had, yes. Jesus was challenged in Mark chapter 10. He was challenged. Say, why are you telling that? But our answer 13 to it. He said they broke down because of the hardness of your heart. It was not like that from there. And the beginning is the marriage of Adam and... Am I communicating? So you need to understand, for it to be a Christian marriage, it must be monogamous. So as you come for the pastor to pray for you, you are making a commitment. Whether she grows fat or narrow. When you married her, she was figure 8, now she's a drum. It will not change. It will not change. You are committing yourself for life. I know when you married her, like when Rebecca met me, I used to have an afro. My hair was up to here. I used to have an afro. Now it's becoming an airport. But it doesn't quite change. You are committing, it's a monogamous marriage for life. In Christian marriage, you must remain monogamous. And the basis is the marriage that God himself officiated in the Garden of Eden. Essentially, meaning a complete and exclusive commitment to each other only involves two people with God as the one who makes the covenant. You know, Old Testament polygamy, yes, is there. We agree. But look at Mark chapter 10, verse 1 and 5. It was because of the hardness of your heart. It was not like that from the beginning. So two things you have learned. First of all, we have said it's a covenant. We have also said it's monogamous. We have also said it's long life. It's a long life relationship. If it is a Christian marriage. Let me go on. Now I'm in Genesis chapter 2, verse 24. I'm saying Christian marriage is an exclusive union. The word is exclusive. Once the two of you start your marriage, anybody extra is not biblical. Exclusive means others are not welcome. Are we together? Your brother can come to stay with you, but he must understand he's a visitor. You know, some of our brothers come and your wife tells them, hey, don't make the chair dirty. He says, this is my brother's house. Please, if you are truly a Christian man and that's reported to you, talk to him properly. I'm not just a lawyer, I'm a Christian. And as a Christian, there is nothing I own my wife does not. So that chair belongs to her. When she tells you to remove your chair, you either remove it or take the highway. Am I communicating? You cannot call yourself a Christian and not make your marriage have too many people. Your relatives have become part and parcel. You know, a lot of this is what we call in-law problems. But in-law problems are not really in-law problems. They are just lack of maturity of the party. A real man was old enough to set up separate home. So when the parents come, they come as visitors. Are you getting the point? And when they are visitors, they must be treated as not owners. You know, some of our heirs come and say, Now, remind him, Papa, when you want to do it in royal land. Here, you are a visitor. A very important visitor. I respect you. The Bible requires me to honor you, but you are still a visitor. Am I communicating? Your mother-in-law and say, no. You are making not ugali, making ugali for my son. Says, yeah, you are. If she wanted to continue with your ugali, he didn't have to marry. It was still available. Now he has agreed to eat my ugali that looked like soil. Now you must allow him to enjoy my soil like ugali. And it's not the responsibility of your wife to tell your mother that. If you truly are a Christian man, you must tell your mother the truth. I do remember, because my father had died in 1979 when I got married, and I used to help at home. Then after the wedding, I went home without my wife. Then my mother started telling me about the things they needed. I said, Mom, you attended the wedding, isn't it? You remember we were wedded by Bishop Getari, because Rebecca's father was an Anglican pastor. Now, do you remember we said we leave everybody? Yes. Now, did you remember I said all my money now belongs to Rebecca? Yes. Now, I'll go and tell her what you have said. When you're in Nairobi, you will decide how to deal with the matter. My mother was a saved lady. She understood it. From then onwards, she didn't ask me for things. She asked Rebecca. Could the things belong to Rebecca? Now, but a lot of Kikuyu men don't want to be Christians. They want to be Kikuyu men. So you start promising your mother things that belong to your wife. Then she hears you gave your mother a cow. From where? Can it be clear you're a thief? Because the word of God is clear. Don't make a vow unless you mean it. And especially if you wedded in an Anglican church, the vows are clear. I give you all my worldly possession. Is that what you say in the Anglican prayer book? Now, when you say that, and your mother asks you for money, can't you tell her the truth? I became poor on that wedding day. I no longer have anything. It now belongs to us. And do the women also promise the same thing? So when your mother tells you, hey, don't lie on your ears, there are things you can get. Say, no. Unfortunately, I said before God, all my salary and everything now belongs to me and my husband. So if you want me to do anything, I must consult am I communicating? We are talking about a Christian. If yours is not, you are okay. But if you really want to have a Christian marriage, it needs to be understood as an exclusive union. That's why a man shall leave in order to start a marriage. You are not allowed to start a Christian marriage unless you leave. In a Christian marriage, the man and the woman leave their previous homes and their previous relationships. That's why, for example, the day you are married, all the friendships with the people that did not agree with the girl you intended to marry are dropped. You can't have a friend who doesn't like your wife. Unless, of course, you are not a Christian. If you're a Christian, your marriage is the first priority. Are we together? So all the boys who told you are marrying an ugly girl, please say, I made up my mind. As ugly as she is, I'll be with her for life. Now, if you actually go back and spend your time with those guys, every time you meet, you are still with your ugly one. Now, you need, and that morning, he had just burnt your egg. What do you think will happen? Will you continue in your marriage? We are talking about an exclusive union. Means you have made up your mind. Any relationship will be a relationship that recognizes your marriage. You will not spend time with people. You know, there are some girls here, some of them are seated here married, but they spend all their time with the divorcees. That's how they spend. And they are always reminded, you are still with that guy. Do you see the freedom we enjoy? When are you going to enjoy the freedom like? No. I love the Lord. But the ideas are passing. That evening, your husband quarrels you. Say, they told me. The earlier I leave him, the better. Christian marriage is like an exclusive union. Exclusive means you are so committed to it that you are going to break all the other relationship. I realize I can't go on. My time is up, and I want us to have a bit of discussion. My prayer is that even the few things I've shared, you'll ask yourself, do you really want God blessings on your marriage? The condition is, then do your marriage into a Christian marriage. Are we together? If you want to run your own, continue. But if you want God's blessings, then you must do it God's way. I'm open for discussion now. Maybe another 5-10